But there's so many different things that you can do with the phone, and you can buy equipment to go with your phone to make it basically just as good as a high-end camera, that you could have like some serious production value, you know, with your phone and maybe $300 worth of equipment. All right, guys, welcome back to Jerk Block Talk. This is a completely outside of the box video content. So I've gotten quite a few questions lately about like what kind of camera equipment we use. So I'll just show you what we have now. You can get really bonkers with this stuff. Like it is really easy to just get crazy out of hand. What I would tell you is, you can do most things with just your iPhone. And when you're first starting out, that's what I would tell you to do. Just get in the habit of capturing and creating content, and do it as low dollar as you want. As you start getting a little bit more familiar with like what it is that you want and how you want to shoot things, you'll figure out what you do and don't like about this and what the limitations are with your phone. But there's so many different things that you can do with the phone, and you can buy equipment to go with your phone to make it basically just as good as a high-end camera, that you could have like some serious production value, you know, with your phone and maybe $300 worth of equipment. So I'll just run through a couple things we do. So we started doing a lot more on the phone just because it's a little bit easier, and there's some certain things that we can do there. And what I would recommend if you're doing a lot of moving and you're trying to capture movement and trying to get some panning videos, if you can get your hands on a gimbal, these things are awesome, and they're only getting cheaper. So I had one, I bought this Skylab one a couple years ago. Don't really love it. It's kind of limited and it gets a little wonky on me sometimes. But this one right here, this thing is awesome. So Smooth makes this one. But the things I like about this one, which I figured out by working with the other one, is so it's got this extendable arm on it. So if you need to talk, you know, to the camera, it's not weird. It just creates, it's kind of like a selfie stick, but it makes it a little bit more user friendly. The tripod on the bottom is awesome too. So you can just set it down and have that, shoot that video the way you want. But also most of them have like a joystick where you can manipulate the camera, but this one locks in place so it doesn't move when you're doing things. This one is really cool though, because with the app you can zoom in and out while shooting video, which is pretty rare. So Smooth, I want to say it's like 150 bucks, and this one has the ability to, like, you can charge your phone while it's in there. You can click back and forth between camera and video on this one. It has a lot of really friendly user tools on there. So I would get your hands on one if you're planning on doing a lot of content. Cameras, like, as long as you've got a I would say the camera's not as important as the lens, particularly if you really don't know what you're doing, which for the most part I don't. This is a Nikon D5200, but the one I'm shooting this on is a Canon 70D, and that's got a little bit of a better lens on it. It's a 18 to 135 millimeter on it, and it's a wide angle, so it gets what I need in all of the frames. So if you need to use that stuff, go ahead and do it. The big thing, what I would tell you, is not necessarily the video. Audio is king. So if you can buy some really cheap lav mics. So which are these little ones that you put on your collar. And again, I'm not an expert, but if you guys look at like CrossfitRife.com, you know, if you look at our Facebook page or Instagram, we produce a decent amount of content, and so I've learned a lot of this like just the hard way. You can buy lav mics which can hook directly to your phone. I've struggled to find a wireless lav mic. I've got some adapters that I can use with these lav mics that will go to the phone. It's just a little bit bulky and not the easiest thing to hold on to, but you can make it work. So having audio at a distance that's clear, particularly in the gym environment, is crazy useful, because when the music's blaring and there's weights dropping and stuff like that, we really want to pick up on the audio. So these are from Ceramonic, and they usually have like your mic and then your receiver, and the receiver would go to the camera or the phone, and they're great. I mean, I get, you know, right at 100 feet distance from the camera, which is nice, particularly if you want the coach to do something. You don't want to be right in their face and make it awkward for people. But audio is king. You can have like I have a couple directional mics too that I have that I can add in there. I haven't found a ton of benefit from the directional mics, but probably because I'm not super smart on how they are to be used. But if you're better than that, you could probably get some pretty good audio off of those too. I know like the HQ Media team uses a ton of boom mics and they have awesome audio, so I'm probably just an idiot. But if you want to start getting really crazy, actually before we do that, a tripod is super useful. A tripod for your phone and then a tripod for the camera. So that camera that it's on right now is sitting on a standard tripod. Nothing crazy, guys. Like, if you just Google camera tripod, you can find anything on Amazon for pretty cheap that'll do the job. You probably want something that has multiple directions that you can manipulate the camera, and then they make them with a little leveling bar on there too, so you know exactly what you're looking at. But if you want to get really crazy, this is not mine, so I borrowed this from a member, but this is a DJI drone, and I've played around with this, and the camera on here I believe is 4K, so you get some crazy good shots. But if you're trying to get some stuff outside from different angles, that makes it really, really convenient. And if you're just trying to get some stuff in the gym, just panning videos, you can fly this thing, and they fly inside and they're crazy accurate, although I have crashed that one. And they have autopilot and stuff on them. But if you want to get some panning shots in the gym at a higher level while people are working, these are really, really useful tools that allow you to move around, and has a remote that you can hook to your phone, and you can fly via the screen on there. But the gimbal and steady camera is super, super useful. So you can do it with the drone, you can get steady video, you can do it with the gimbal here for the phone. And then if you're really gonna get bonkers, you can get, this is a DJI Ronin gimbal here. Like, you'll see a lot of these or versions of these at the games, but all this does is basically create a steady cam. They're kind of annoying to hold on to because they get really heavy and cumbersome. But if you're shooting a lot of moving, you're moving around a lot, like trying to capture member testimonials, I put one of those up here, or things like that where people are moving around and you don't want the camera to be kind of jostling all around, it can be worth it. I think this one was like something between $1,300 and $1,500. And then I added the screen up here. It's a 7-inch screen because it gets really hard to see what you're filming if you don't have the screen. So that can be kind of a pain in the ass. And then I bought, there's a remote thumb joystick on here that allow me to manipulate the camera up and down with my thumb rather than moving it all the time. But I know a lot of people would ask questions about like creating content. I mean, you can get crazy and you can spend a ton of money on this stuff, but I would start with your phone, figure out what your limitations are with your phone, and then before you go dumping a ton of money on video equipment, I would spend the majority of your time trying to capture good audio, because reality is audio is king anyway, and depending on if they actually need to see what's going on there, they can just listen to the audio. And most people will listen to the audio and be distracted anyway. So if you have good audio, you're going to be in good shape. The lav mics can get crazy. You can have dual band lav mics. I'm probably going to upgrade here one last time. I used to have some other ones that were pretty shitty, but I'll probably upgrade one more time and spend upwards of like $300, something like that. So I can I can mic multiple people to the same receiver, which depending on what you're trying to do can be pretty useful. But yeah, I just figured I'd show you guys like what are some of the things that we use. So cameras, tripods, gimbals of any sort, but the big thing I'd tell you is audio. So receivers for mics. I mean, you can get a pretty decent receiver or lav mic for about $100, which will last you quite a while, and will give you more than good enough audio for what you're trying to do. But yeah, not really my shtick. Audio and video and stuff like that, but I've gotten to be fairly good at it and understand like what are some of the pros and cons. But I do get a lot of questions about like what do we use to do a lot of our video. And as far as editing goes, I mean, iMovie, there's a ton of stuff. You can use Adobe and some other really high-end stuff, but iMovie is pretty dummy proof. I do all of these videos myself via iMovie, and I've gotten to the point where to edit these, it takes me, you know, maybe 10 minutes. The longest thing that takes with regard to editing movies, at least for me, is uploading and downloading the video content. So Anyway, I hope this is useful. You've probably seen different ways we move this stuff or we use this stuff, but didn't really know what it was. But again, you don't have to get nuts with it. And what I would recommend is before you really start to drop or invest in here is like, there's a lot of places where you can rent video equipment and audio equipment. Rent it first or borrow it from somebody who uses it and see if you think it's going to be worth your investment. But what I'll tell you is once we started purchasing it, it was kind of a forcing function for us. We really started to create more content once we had invested the money into being able to capture really, really good content. One thing I don't have in here is because they're pretty big and bulky is you can buy like a 3-point lighting kit for like $150 too. So lighting, if you've mastered the audio and you've got good cameras and all that stuff, then you maybe want to double down with some lighting. But those are usually going to be, if you're shooting something very particular that's staged, you know, member testimonials, maybe some movement videos. I'll post one of those up here. We'll use that stuff occasionally too. So hope this is useful. If you have any other questions, I can give you the specifics on any of these. Yeah, if you like this content, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. See you next time. Thanks.